All right, you can't even see the shirt, but it matches the vibes. Anyways, as a child, one of my first loves was Sanrio, more specifically Hello Kitty. And I'm sure a lot of people, regardless of age or even gender, can relate. Like, Hello Kitty's a pretty popular character. However, when most people think of Hello Kitty or Sanrio, they often think of the merchandise, you know, like the t-shirts, the lunchboxes, the water bottles, and Pringles. Okay, but this is actually really cute. However, when I think of Hello Kitty, I instantly think of all the TV shows that I watched growing up surrounding the character. Pretty much for my 4th birthday, I got a Hello Kitty DVD, and it was all downhill from there. I think by the end of my obsession, I had around 15 to 20 Hello Kitty DVDs, and I remember watching them all pretty regularly. In fact, I think I watched them up until I was like in middle school, maybe late elementary school. And then one day I was talking with this one girl, and I think I was wearing like a Hello Kitty shirt, or I had a Hello Kitty band-aid or something like that. And I don't know what we were talking about. I just brought up the show in some capacity. I was like, oh yeah, I like the show. And this girl was like, you watch that? I was like, oh yeah, no, you're so right. That is for little kids. I just watch it because I have a little sister. That's why I watch it. And after that, I just like stopped watching Hello Kitty and stopped caring about the character altogether. In high school and middle school, I wanted so badly to be normal, and now that literally all I do is go to work and hang out in my apartment, I don't care anymore. But yes, over the years, Hello Kitty has had a ton of TV shows and specials, and a good chunk of them had a significant part of my childhood. For this video, I mainly want to cover the ones that had the biggest impact on me, and the ones that had the most like strange and out-of-pocket moments, and there's a lot of them. Let's get into it. Hello Kitty's Furrytale Theater, as far as I can tell, was the very first series surrounding Hello Kitty and other Sanrio characters. In 1987, it made its very first debut in the US on CBS. And yeah, it's very, very 80s.
Oh! Sis, are you all right? No! Get me out of here! Ow! Daddy! It's all in the wrist!
What? No, Chipper. It's all in the hat.
The show revolved around Hello Kitty, played by Tara Strong, and her friends My Melody, Tuxedo Sam, Chip, Catnip, and Grinder. Yeah, I know. Hosting their own stage show where they retell popular fairy tales and stories. For the most part, the stories that they reenact are pretty straightforward. Like, you have Kittylocks and the Three Bears, obviously like a parody of Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
But this pizza is just right. Could have used some pepperoni.
Cinder Kitty, which is of course a parody of Cinderella.
All right, let's win one for the Kipper.
The Ugly Quackling, which is a parody of The Ugly Duckling.
No, Ugly! We do it in the upright position, not on our backs.
And so on. However, there were some interesting ones. I don't think I had the other ones on DVD, so I didn't know how strange some of them were. But they include KT, which is a parody of E.T., Paws, which is a parody of Jaws, and Cat Wars, which was a parody of Star Wars. And to me, what makes this like the most strange is that nowadays, yes, these are very iconic movies, but E.T. and Star Wars at the time were not that old. They maybe have been around for 10 years, maybe 15 years at most, but both of those were like relatively new at the time. I think they just got really lucky that they picked movies to parody that happened to become classics and that people are still watching to this day. I don't know. Overall, as a kid, I think I enjoyed the show fine, but after rewatching some of the episodes as an adult, it really does not hold up, at least to me. First of all, I don't love the character designs. Like, for example, why do My Melody and Hello Kitty have fingers? As far as I can tell, this is the only time these characters have had like human, like 5 fingers, 4 fingers. It just looks so strange because literally in every other cartoon from my memory, they had like just like one hand. They didn't have fingers, and to me that just looks so weird. Like, they're not human. They are animals. They don't need fingers. I also really do not like Catnip and Grinder's voices. I think they're kind of grating to listen to after a while.
Now I can't fly south. Wah!
And this is coming from someone who, I don't like certain sounds. They drive me insane. And so I don't like hearing certain voices. They piss me off, and I can't listen to them. They're way too loud, and they're kind of a lot after a while. The animation overall, I'm not a huge fan of either. It's very, like I said, it's very 80s. And I know some people love like the 80s cartoon style animation. I am not the biggest fan of it. I think it's just so, I don't know how to describe it. Dirty is the wrong word. It just looks kind of rough around the edges, and I just don't like it that much. I don't like 80s animation like for cartoons. I think it looks kind of weird. So this is just personal preference. I don't like the animation in the show. As a whole, I think I'd rate this series like a good 5 out of 10. It's pretty good for kids. Like, I think if a kid decided they wanted to watch this, I wouldn't, like, it's fine. Like, it's good. I would probably recommend maybe something else, but if they wanted to put it on, I would be like, okay, I'm just gonna go in the other room while you watch that. Okay, so I know that there are at least 3 shows that are called this exact same thing, but I'm specifically going to be talking about the Hello Kitty and Friends from 1989 through 1998. The English dub of Hello Kitty and Friends was produced in Canada by Optimum Productions. Aside from being direct-to-video releases, it also aired in the United States on CBS with reruns on Toon Disney, which I find kind of interesting.
Hello? Hello? Is anybody there? Oh, good. I just wanted to say hello, Kitty.
Oh.
And hello to Peckle and Picacho and Keroppi, too. Coming up next on Toon Disney, you can say hello, too, when you tune in for Hello Kitty and Friends. It's a whole half hour of enjoyable sweets, treasures, and friends. So come on over to Toon Disney and say hello to Hello Kitty and Friends. Coming up next, only on Toon Disney.
While Hello Kitty was the main focus of this show, there were segments featuring other Sanrio characters such as Peckle, Pachaco, Keroppi, and others. For the most part, the show was pretty tame. It was a slice of life show featuring Kitty and her friends as they navigate daily life and school. However, there were a few moments on this show that, considering the young audience the show was aimed towards, and that I was like 4 years old when I watched them, they can be kind of intense, especially considering that it's Hello Kitty. For example, Hello Kitty and the Dream Thief literally goes from 0 to 100 within the first 2 minutes. It starts off with Mimi, Hello Kitty's twin sister, and one of my personal favorites, painting a picture only for a gust of wind to start blowing and eventually sweep her and everything around her away. Also, keep in mind too, in the DVD that I had of this episode, it was the first thing that played. So I popped the DVD in, I pressed play on the menu, and literally this is what I saw. This is what little 4-year-old me saw when I was sitting down to watch a Hello Kitty DVD. I was a little unsettled. Mimi wakes up screaming, revealing that it was all a bad dream, and we learn later that her friends were having similar nightmares too. We discover that the reason behind the bad dreams of the girls and their classmates is a creature known as the Dream Thief.
You might as well come out. We know you're in there. We know you're the Dream Thief.
Actually, my name's Puffin.
Well, it doesn't matter. But why are you stealing our dreams?
Oh, I'm not stealing your dreams. I'm eating them.
That's the same thing.
Okay, I know this reveal is supposed to be silly, like he's literally just a little guy, but this reveal, this character made me so uneasy as a kid. I did not like him. Oh, and later in the episode we get a mom reveal and she is massive and her lips don't move when she talks. And she scared me too. I didn't like them.
I've been looking all over for you. I was worried sick, son.
Oh, I have a stomachache, Mommy.
I know technically we find out later that they were supposed to be eating the nightmares, not the good dreams, and he like spits them all back up, and we're supposed to like, it's supposed to be this silly thing like, oh, they got their dreams back, and the silly thing at the end is that all their dreams were mushed together because he like threw them all back up. But just the whole episode, just like the idea of it made me so uneasy. Maybe it's because I was just an anxious kid, but I didn't like this episode. For the most part, the day the big clock stopped is a pretty normal episode of the show, I would say. Like, oh, it's the girls wake up late and they realize that all the clocks in their house have stopped and they're all confused about what time it is. They get to school and it turns out the bell doesn't work either, and they just find out that everyone in the city's clocks are broken. And they take the bus in the city to get their clocks fixed by the clock guy, and so there's a long line weaving around the building, and this poor man, it's just one guy, and he's sitting there trying to repair the clocks, and he's all frazzled and just like, it's a lot. And this is also the episode where I found out that Hello Kitty is British. Like, this show takes place around London because they take the bus and it's like this British like double-decker, and then the clock that is broken is Big Ben, and they found out the reason all the clocks have stopped is because Big Ben stopped, and no one knows why the clock tower isn't working anymore. And yes, I know Big Ben is the bell. They call it Big Ben in the show, so I'm calling it Big Ben here. So ultimately the girls decide to go home and they're like, oh, maybe it'll just kind of work itself out later. And Kitty has this like dream, and I'm just gonna play it because I don't think the amount of script writing, no matter how good or bad it is, can really emphasize how weird this dream is.
Sneaking into their dreams.
Excuse me, sir, but would you happen to know what time it is? I've lost my clock.
No, I'm sorry, I don't. I'll never know what time it is again.
Wait! I'm sorry! Come back! I need to find my clock! Hello? What kind of a clock are you?
I am the crooked-handed, squiggly time clock. I never give the exact time. Isn't that funny?
Like, is that not creepy? Is that not creepy? So like I said, the majority of these episodes are slice of life. Like, they take place in a neighborhood and it's just kids doing kid things. They released a VHS, DVD, home video, whatever you want to call it, of like fantasy. Like, I think they called it Furrytale Fantasy, and on it they had just a bunch of fairy tale episodes where the characters retold classic. So it was basically Furrytale theater, but in Hello Kitty and Friends style. The Alice in Wonderland one was actually, fun fact, my introduction to Alice in Wonderland. I didn't watch the Disney one until I was way older. The scene with the caterpillar makes me laugh so much as an adult. I don't know why, it just makes me a little uncomfy, but it's Alice in Wonderland. It's kind of supposed to do that.
If you really want to go home, you have to taste a little of that mushroom there.
Oh! I can feel my neck grow!
So considering that this was my first ever Hello Kitty show that I watched, and I really liked going back to it, it was super comforting and nostalgic, and overall the show is a very quiet and peaceful show. Like, it's not loud like Furrytale Theater was, and I appreciate that. I like that about the show. So considering just all of that and how it looks and just the aesthetic, I would give the show a solid 8 out of 10. Hello Kitty's Paradise began airing in Japan from January 1999 through October 1999. This series was definitely geared towards a younger audience, not to say that the other two were like older per se, but this one was 100% meant for like maybe kids 7 and under. The show follows Kitty and Mimi as they learn various life lessons such as healthy habits, street safety, manners, color mixing, and more, just through experience and through going to Imagination Land with their imaginary hot air balloon. This is actually one of the shows that shaped me the most growing up, weirdly enough. I watched a lot of educational shows as a kid, but this is one of the ones where I was like, oh, I'm taking away lessons from this. Like, the counting episode specifically really stuck with me. It taught me how to count big numbers, and to this day, I still think of the episode when I have to count big numbers. I'm like, okay, I split it up into sections, and that's how I count big numbers. However, another episode that stuck with me, unfortunately, was the Dust Monster episode. So this episode is I have my gripes with it, and I don't think anyone's gonna care about me. The episode basically starts off with the girls hanging out, and their mom comes in and she's like, hey, we should do some spring cleaning. You guys should like take the duster and dust your room or whatever. I have not watched this episode since starting to make this video. This is just all from pure memory, and I know this episode like the back of my own hand. I don't need to rewatch it because I've watched it so many times. And the girls were like, Kitty especially was like, I don't want to do it. Her mom is like, okay, how about this for a story? And she pulls out the Dust Monster book. It's basically like a story about a girl who didn't clean her room, and then that night, because her room was so dusty, all the dust accumulated together to make this gigantic dust monster, and he basically scared her into cleaning her room. And Kitty and Mimi were like, okay, that's just a story, it's not real. Mimi's kind of more apprehensive about it, but Kitty's like, nah, we don't have to clean her room, it's fine, he's not real, he's not coming. And then that night comes, and the dust monster literally appears in their bedroom, and he's like giving Mimi like a coughing attack, and Kitty's like, what did you do to her? Like, you're destroying her. And he has this really creepy, deep, booming voice. It was revealed later that it was a dream of Kitty's, and that day she was like, all right, let's go clean her room. I don't want this man to come into her house. I don't know. I don't like this episode because maybe it's just the fact that I'm a sensitive Gen Z or whatever, but I personally believe, as someone who's worked with kids, I don't have my own kids, but I've worked with them, scaring them is not the way to go about getting them to do things that are important. Like, I think that having a clean room and a clean house without dust is important because it keeps you from getting sick, and it keeps like the bugs from coming inside. That I like keeping a clean, relatively clean house. As a kid, the dust monster scared me, and I learned so much from the show without having to be scared. Like, there was another episode, but it basically taught healthy eating habits. Kitty showed up to the dinner table and she was like a complete mess. Like, she was covered in dirt because she was playing outside. That episode taught me to always wash my hands before I eat.
But what's the big deal, Mom?
What do you mean, big deal?
Washing up. Why is it so important?
Because your hands pick up all kinds of germs and bacteria through the day.
They can cause all sorts of things like head colds and stomach flu.
That's literally all you have to do is reason with kids. You don't have to lie to them and be like, oh, a dust monster is gonna come. Like, you can just be honest with them, and most of the time that works a lot better. But I don't know, I'm going way too deep into this, into an episode of a show that probably nobody has seen. Anyways, for the most part, I think this show is a pretty good one for toddlers and younger kids. I took away a lot from this show growing up, so yeah, for that reason, I think I'm gonna rate it a solid 7 out of 10. Hello Kitty's animation theater originally aired in 2001, and yes, believe it or not, the premise of this show is once again Hello Kitty and other Sanrio characters retelling old fairy tales. I don't know like what the reason is. It's like they can't come up with anything else. At the very least, we have 3 different Hello Kitty Snow Whites. Let that sink in. However, I think this show honestly does it the best. Even now, at the ripe old age of 22, this show has so many good gags, and I rewatched a few episodes while making the script because I just wanted a refresher, and it's genuinely funny. Like, it has some good moments in it.
All right! It's a chestnut gathering contest! Who can gather the most? Ready?
And honestly, I think the voice acting in this one is the best. Not only that, but it was kind of nice seeing some less common Sanrio characters that you don't really see have their own TV shows, like Pom Pom Purin and Bats Maru. They don't really have their own like shows, and so it was kind of fun to have them like star in their own little stories, even if it is retellings of things. You still get to see their characters shine through, and I just think that's fun. I wanted to bring this up just because I think it's so funny. One of my favorite episodes of the show as a kid was the Hansel and Gretel episode starring Hello Kitty and Dear Daniel. And I think it's so funny because, as far as I can tell, this is like the only episode where Dear Daniel is like a brother to Hello Kitty. And literally every other time I've seen him, he's literally a love interest. They're getting married, they're kissing, they're doing whatever. And so it's so just weird to me to see them together as siblings. I'm on Instagram a lot and I see a lot of like couples memes surrounding this episode, and it's so funny because like I know that they're playing siblings. It's not a real issue, I just think it's so funny. Personally, another one of my favorites is The Emperor's New Clothes.
A smart person who has a wonderful heart will be able to see our beautiful clothes. But a stupid person who has an ugly heart is not able to see any clothing at all, right? Really? Great!
And fun fact, I wasn't allowed to say the word stupid as a kid. Like, I thought it was a bad word because my parents didn't let me say it. And so in this episode, when they used the word stupid, I was like, oh shoot, I don't want my parents to see me watching this episode because I could get in trouble. And so I'd always turn it off or like start the DVD over so they wouldn't catch me watching it because I didn't want to like not be allowed to watch Hello Kitty anymore. And truly, in my opinion, one of the funniest episodes was The Boy Who Cried Wolf, starring Bats Maru. I think that just that episode had the most gags, and I think I watched that one the most as a kid. It was good, it was funny. One of the things that I appreciated about this show too is that despite retelling classic fairy tales for kids, I feel like they really kept to the original source material. I mean, as much as they could for it being a show for little kids. Like, of course it wasn't gonna be graphic or like dangerous at all, but they kept the original endings. Like, Hello Kitty starred in The Little Match Girl, and she dies at the end. Like, she literally dies. Bats Maru was in, what's it called? The Grasshopper and the Ants and the Grasshopper, something like that. He literally freezes to death because he didn't get food for the winter. And it's just like, it's stuff like that where it's like they're not afraid to have the original endings. Another one was The Bamboo Princess. I did not know about this story until I watched this episode. This was my introduction to The Bamboo Princess, and I was heartbroken. Hello Kitty couldn't stay with her family. But that's the original story, that's how it goes. And I just thought, I as an adult, I can appreciate that. Like, it's nice that there's kids media that has fairy tales that are somewhat similar to the originals. Overall, I think I'd rate this show a solid 9 out of 10. I love this series. I think as an adult, it's my favorite Hello Kitty series. So that's pretty much all I have for this video. I'm hoping it wasn't too niche. I'm hoping some people could relate to it. And yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it and down in the comments. Like, did you watch any of these shows? Did you have a favorite series? If so, what was the favorite episode of the series? Are there more kind of niche series that you would like to see me cover in the future? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!